Welcome back to the Bookkeeper, your dedicated space for summaries of books that don't just inform, they ignite real change in how you think, feel, and live. If you've ever felt completely lost, overwhelmed by suffering, or convinced that life has no real purpose left, today's book might be the one that quietly but powerfully rewires your entire perspective. We're diving deep into Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl, one of the most profound, heartbreaking, and ultimately hopeful books ever written. This is the Holocaust survivor's account that has sold over 16 million copies worldwide, been translated into dozens of languages, and continues to be a cornerstone of psychology, philosophy, and personal resilience in 2026. In the next few minutes, we'll walk through Frankl's unimaginable experiences inside the Nazi concentration camps, the revolutionary psychological approach he developed from the ashes of that horror, and, most importantly, the practical, everyday tools and mindset shifts you can start applying right now to discover or reclaim meaning in your own life, no matter how dark things feel. If you're ready to learn why even the worst suffering doesn't have to destroy your spirit, and how to find unbreakable purpose, hit that like button early to let me know you're here with me. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss a transformative summary. And let's begin this journey together. Viktor Frankl opens with a raw, unflinching truth that sets the tone for everything that follows. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Frankl was not speaking theoretically. As a young Jewish psychiatrist in Vienna, he had already begun developing ideas around meaning-centered therapy when the Nazis annexed Austria in 1938. He was arrested, deported, and spent nearly 3 years in 4 different concentration camps, including the infamous Auschwitz-Birkenau. He lost his mother, father, brother, and his beloved pregnant wife to the gas chambers. He endured starvation, beatings, forced labor, the constant threat of death, and the systematic stripping away of every human dignity. Yet in the midst of that industrial-scale cruelty, Frankl made an astonishing observation. Physical strength alone did not determine who survived. The prisoners who lasted longest were often those who discovered, or clung to, some form of meaning that gave their suffering a purpose. Insight number 1, and perhaps the most important thread running through the entire book. Suffering is inevitable, but meaning can transform it. Frankl watched men who lost all sense of future purpose simply give up. They would stop eating, stop moving, and within days they would die, sometimes without any visible physical cause. He called this giving up on life. On the other hand, prisoners who held on to a reason to endure, a child waiting outside the camp, a scientific manuscript they still needed to finish, a spiritual conviction, or even the simple act of comforting another inmate, frequently found the inner resources to keep going. Frankl himself survived by imagining himself after liberation standing at a lecture podium, describing the psychological lessons he was learning in the camps. That vivid future image became his why and helped carry him through the present hell. Here's your first practical takeaway you can use immediately for an aha moment. When everything feels meaningless or hopeless, stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and instead ask Frankl's question, "What is life asking of me right now?" This subtle shift, from victim to responder, changes everything. Try it the next time you're facing pain, loss, boredom, or crisis. Pause for 30 seconds, breathe, and literally ask out loud or in your mind, what task, what attitude, what small act of love or courage is this moment demanding from me? Many people report an instant sense of direction and relief, even if the external situation doesn't change. From these observations, Frankl developed logotherapy, what he called the third Viennese school of psychotherapy, after Freud's psychoanalysis, will to pleasure, and Adler's individual psychology, will to power. Frankl argued that the primary human drive is not pleasure or power, but the will to meaning. When that drive is blocked or unfulfilled, people fall into what he termed the existential vacuum, a deep inner emptiness that manifests as boredom, apathy, depression, addiction, aggression, or despair. Logotherapy is not about analyzing the past like Freud or adjusting social dynamics like Adler. It's future-oriented and meaning-centered. It helps people discover purpose through three main paths: creative values, achieving or creating something; work, art, a business, raising children, writing a book, helping a community; experiential values, encountering or experiencing something or someone; beauty in nature, truth in a moment of insight; love for another person; attitudinal values, the attitude we freely choose toward unavoidable suffering. This is the path Frankl himself walked in the camps. Frankl's own survival story illustrates the third path most powerfully. He had no control over the beatings, starvation, or selections for the gas chambers. But he could control his inner response. He chose dignity, compassion, and hope. He chose to see the suffering as a test of his character rather than proof that life is meaningless. Practical tip number 2. Use Frankl's future projection technique when you're stuck. Close your eyes for 2 to 3 minutes and vividly imagine yourself 1 year from now, having already walked through your current difficulty, having grown stronger, wiser, more compassionate. See yourself looking back on this moment and saying, "That was the turning point. That's when I chose meaning over despair." Now ask your future self, how did you get through it? What small choices made the difference? Listen quietly. Write down whatever comes. People who practice this regularly often report sudden clarity, renewed motivation, and even physical energy returning. Frankl shares many small human stories from the camps that illustrate meaning in action. One prisoner kept a photograph of his wife hidden in his shoe. The love he felt when he looked at it, even though he later learned she had been killed, gave him a reason to survive each day. Another man found purpose in secretly teaching fellow prisoners to read. Yet another chose kindness toward a cruel guard, offering a word of understanding instead of hatred, which preserved his own humanity. Key insight: meaning does not have to be grand. It can be found in the smallest acts of love, creativity, or dignity. Frankl also emphasizes that love is the ultimate and most indestructible form of meaning. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. No one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. Even when the beloved is physically gone, the spiritual bond remains and continues to give purpose. Aha exercise for relationships and loss. Think of one person you deeply love or have loved. Imagine they are sitting across from you right now, watching your life unfold. Ask yourself, what would make them proud of me today? Let that single question guide one small choice in the next 24 hours. This simple practice can pull you out of numbness or resentment faster than almost anything else. Frankl addresses the question many people ask: how can there be meaning in a world that allows Auschwitz? His answer is not denial of evil, but defiance of it through attitude. Evil exists, cruelty exists, but so does the human capacity to choose love, courage, and dignity in response. He saw both extremes in the camps, guards who were sadistic monsters and guards who risked their lives to give prisoners extra bread. He saw prisoners who stole from the dying and prisoners who gave their last crust to a stranger. Evil is a choice. Goodness is also a choice. Insight. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This line is often attributed to Frankl, though he expressed the idea in his own words. Tip number 3. Build the space habit. The next time you're angry, hurt, anxious, or tempted to give up, pause for 10 full seconds. Breathe slowly. Ask, what attitude do I choose right now? That tiny pause is where freedom lives. Practice it daily. It becomes second nature and radically increases your inner strength. In the book's second half, Frankl explains how logotherapy works in everyday life outside the camps. He treated suicidal patients, depressed housewives, disillusioned executives, and trauma survivors by helping them rediscover responsibility to life. One famous case: a man contemplating suicide after his wife's death found meaning when he realized his young son still needed him. That responsibility became his why. Frankl never told patients what their meaning should be. He helped them uncover it themselves. Practical weekly exercise. At the end of each week, write down 3 sources of meaning that were present, even in small ways. Something you created or accomplished. Someone or something you loved or appreciated. A moment of suffering you faced with dignity or courage. Review the list. You'll often be surprised how much meaning was already there. Repeat weekly. It compounds purpose over time. Frankl closes the book with quiet, unshakable hope. Even in the most terrible circumstances, meaning is possible. He quotes Nietzsche, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." That single sentence has carried countless people through their own dark nights. We've walked through Frankl's camp experiences, his discovery of the will to meaning, the 3 paths of logotherapy, the power of attitude in suffering, love as ultimate meaning, and concrete ways to apply these ideas today. This is not just a Holocaust memoir. It's a timeless manual for turning any pain into purpose. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this time with me on The Bookkeeper. If Viktor Frankl's courage, wisdom, and message of hope moved you today, please show some love with a like. It helps these summaries reach more people who need them. Subscribe if you're not already part of this community. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss a new deep dive summary. And leave a comment below. What's one small why or purpose in your life right now that keeps you going forward? Your answer might be exactly what someone else scrolling needs to read today. Until our next conversation, remember, meaning is not something you find once and for all. It's something you choose again and again, every single day. Keep choosing it. Keep living it. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and take heart.